Rachel? Are there any qualities of yourself that you've infused into her?
Well, I mean, she's a foodie now because they knew that was very important to me. And but no, in terms of actual characteristics, we're both incredibly ambitious. And I do appreciate that we're both very strong-willed and trying to, as most women are, finding the balance between career and life, relationship, all of that. So I appreciate how Rachel handles that, and I see a commonality with us there. I don't cry as much as Rachel does. I don't think anyone does. Oh, gosh.
How do you cry? I mean, do you have,
I'm so dehydrated by the end of the season. I was like, I can't anymore.
Because you're an excellent, excellent crier.
Thank you very much. It's a couple things. I mean, sure, because you have to understand, we're not just doing it for that one moment that you see on screen.
Yeah, there's how many takes.
My coverage,
yeah.
your coverage if we're doing this shot, the master. So those, breaking up the wine glass or the screaming and crying, you gotta imagine we do that 20 times, right? And I still want to give the same level of performance for my castmate as I would on my own coverage. So even if you only see the back of my head, I'm still pouring tears for them. I don't know how I do it anymore. Sometimes if you just stare really hard for a long time, tears will come. But no, it's more than that. It's just being in it. I mean, the stakes are so high, who wouldn't be crying? And it's finding different layers of it, which is the biggest challenge for me.
We pick up this exciting, riveting interview with the question being asked, what do you see of yourself in Rachel? Harry's wife commences with, she's a foodie now, because that was important to me. She attempts to crack a joke, exhibiting the fact that, again, she has no sense of humour. She looks down with false humility, and once again, there's no response from the audience. She then moves on to identify the parallels between her and Rachel Zane. She explains both incredibly ambitious, both strong-willed, and, of course, identifies those character traits of her character as her own. She explains that she doesn't cry as much as Rachel does, and then says, I don't think that anybody actually does. She then looks to the audience for confirmation, from which there comes silence. She's wounded again, which causes her then to respond by looking away and going, oh gosh, a moment where she's caught in the absence of interaction from the audience, the anxiety reappearing for yet a fourth or fifth time. The interviewer steps in and rescues her by asking, how do you cry? And you are an excellent, excellent crier. Provision of positive fuel and flattery, by way of the compliment. Harry's wife responds favourably to that with an over-exaggerated thank you very much. She doles out a benign response to the interviewer for giving her that positive fuel. She then goes on to explain her own performance with regard to crying, where she explains that it's not just one take, but it has to be done several times because of the different camera angles or coverages, talking about there's her coverage, there's the master coverage, there's the coverage of her castmate, as she explains, and so forth. She basically says, I don't know how I do it anymore. Contrast that explanation with the one tear, left eye, go, the boast that she made about being able to cry on demand. It is interesting that at this juncture, she has either forgotten about her ability to cry on demand, or doesn't yet use that, and it came about at a later juncture. Either way, of course, it shows the fluid nature of the history behind why she does as she does. There's no consistency. So, for instance, when she's asked in the now infamous clip about the ability to cry, where she says, oh, it's crazy, they say, Meghan, one tear, left eye, go. Well, in those instances, she hasn't been consistent. Because if she were, if this interview had predated that, she would have said, oh, I don't know how I do it. But of course, her narcissism is fluid about the history. So on one occasion, I don't know how I cry. In other instances, oh, it's crazy, one tear, left eye, go. She just goes on to then explain that she just stares really hard for a long time and the tears will come. A contrast in story. It's just being in it. The stakes are so high, so who wouldn't cry? This provides us with an example of her revision of history, contrasting the response in this interview to the other one.
foodie aspect here.
Sure.
Because this lady has this amazing food blog, The Tig, and I just told her that I'm going to make her chicken recipe.
Oh yeah, the crispy
because
chicken
the
stew.
crispy chicken with lemons. So how did you kind of develop that side of yourself, the foodie side?
Yeah, I mean, the TIG it has a lot of elements to it. There's fashion, travel, of course,
There's
food.
interviews with
Yeah,
people.
TIG talks that I do with a lot of celebrities or influencers. And then, the beauty section, which is important to me because I've tried to redefine it and write a lot more think pieces and things that really speak to inner beauty. So I started it, it'll be 2 years in May, and I still... it's still my baby. I wanted a place where I could share these great experiences I'm able to have and make it inspirational for people, but also a reminder that it's all attainable. Like I didn't grow up with this kind of lifestyle or being interviewed or having fancy things. Like that is all very new. And so to be able to show like, you want that, you could totally have that, and you are enough and you're worth it. And it's also been a great way for me to connect with people. Like Emily, who's right here. I only know her through Twitter, and I knew she was coming because I saw it on social media.
Stop it, really?
Yes, and she's going on a trip soon to Costa Rica to do some aid work because she said that my UN stuff inspired her. I wrote you a letter. I brought it.
Okay, that is amazing.
It's so good to finally meet you.
It's so great to meet you.
We'll take. Oh! I got a big letter from him. Oh no.
I also have a letter from Seoul, who is Meghan Markle.
Oh yeah, in Brazil.
Yes. So
Oh my
I have
God.
mine and hers, and then
I'll talk to you right after. We'll finish the interview.
The host now returns the topic to the foodie aspect and explains that Harry's wife has an amazing food blog, The Tig. Or if you prefer the more humorous take on all of that, please do watch my videos, The Stig. Mention is made of the crispy chicken stew or the crispy chicken with lemons, not sure which one it is. Harry's wife explained it has a lot of elements. She loves telling you about things having layers and elements. That's one of her sort of stock phrases that she utilises, and explains that it's involved in fashion or fashion, travel, that she does TikToks with celebs and influencers, and that it's involved in beauty. She explains that she's tried to redefine beauty and write a number of think pieces which speak to inner beauty, which sounds like a lot of word salad to me. She explains it's still her baby and it's been going for a couple of years in May. And then she goes on to explain that she didn't grow up with all of this, i.e. all of the fancy goods and trips and holidays that she makes mention of in the blog. Of course, once again, she's trying to bring up the past to demonstrate that she had a poor upbringing. Now, it may well be the case that she wasn't swanning around with the designer handbags, but as we know from the evidence that was provided by her father, and indeed the video that exists on the internet showing some of her childhood, demonstrates that she was treated like the proverbial princess by her father. So to suggest that it was a barren childhood, free of delight, and that she didn't really get anything is incorrect. So this revision of history exhibits a false humility. She again uses that phrase, "you are enough," trotting those stock phrases out. And we cut to an audience member filming this clearly momentous occasion. And then, of course, we have the staged section. She explains it's also been a great way for me to connect with people like Emily, who's right here. Well, how about that? Was an opportune moment to demonstrate her supposed authentic, kind, and empathic side. She explained that she only knew her through Twitter, and that she only knew that Emily was coming to the interview today because she saw it on social media. So Harry's wife does pay close attention to social media because she knows that somebody who is a fan of hers is coming to the event, such as the extent to which she scrutinises and stalks the social media of other people. Now, this would suggest that her protestations that she never looks at social media is bunkum. This was also something supported by Tom Bauer's observations in Revenge. She carries on explaining that Emily's going on a trip soon to Costa Rica to do some aid work because she said my UN stuff, great particularization there, inspired her. So although mention is made of Emily, the real reason for Emily's existence is down to Harry's wife. I inspired her. My work inspired her. Harry's wife is triangulating the audience with Emily and bringing up again how brilliant she is. So, as you know from the Arsey Wipe series, no matter when it's about somebody else it isn't, it always has to come back to Harry's wife. It then cuts to an excited-looking Emily, who is then told by Harry's wife, I wrote you a letter and I brought it. This does prompt an audience reaction this time, so the fuel is flowing for Harry's wife, and the audience are under control, prompting her to leave her stool and walk across the stage and hand over a gift and letter, and of course go in for the hug. Remind you of anything? Remind you of a walkabout, perhaps? Then apparently the lady that sat with Emily passes up a letter to Harry's wife. And of course Harry's wife in that moment can't but gloat by saying, ooh, I get a big letter. My letter is bigger than the one you're getting because I'm more important. And then Emily starts to explain that she got a letter from somebody in Brazil that Harry's wife seems to recognise, and she tries to talk, but Harry's wife immediately cuts her dead as if to say, look, you've had your moment, prole, shut up, this is about me. I'll talk to you later. And then retreats back to the stage. This, of course, is all staged and is part of Harry's wife looking good through facade management. It's doubtless that Emily probably is a fan, and that Harry's wife has been snooping on her social media and then has thought to herself, right, in this moment, how can I assert control? I'll take a gift, I'll take a letter. And then at the opportune moment, demonstrates this to make it seem like she truly does care. It gives the appearance of caring, as you know, but also, because we've established she's a narcissist, we know that it's simply an artifice. Quite the cringe-worthy moment, but one that's been replicated since, as you are all aware. Let us forge on. Join me in the next part as we see what other cringe comes forth from Harry's wife.